This is Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and you're listening to the Paranormally Zone.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen. It does happen.
A ghostly apparition in the dark of night.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey there, fellow zoners and paranormal ponderers. You are in the Paranormally Zone, your weekly dose of all things, you guessed it, paranormal, strange, and mysterious. My name is Patrick Koffenberg, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host with the ghosts, the paranormal poster boy himself, the coughing violently and having to deal with a vulgar future wife in the background, Mike Carbno. Yeah. How you doing there, Mike? It's good to see you. It's Monday. It's approximately 4:12 in the afternoon, and we're getting this done. This is take two. Take two, or no, actually, technically, take three.
Exactly, yes. I screwed up the first time. Technically, it was screwed up the other night, and then today is just going to work.
It's going to. Yeah. Well, let me clarify to everyone. You did not screw up on Friday. It was very it was very legit reasons for postponing. And then our second attempt, if anything was to blame, it was the internet. And yes. And then I quite frankly got flustered and I said, I don't want to try it anymore.
You said you lost your podcast mojo.
I lost my podcast mojo. It was
and that does happen to Patrick at times.
It does.
And it happens to me.
Well, you know, we're sitting there. We're stoked. We're hyped. We're ready to go. I'm ready to spew forth all sorts of wonderful info. Hopefully wonderful, useful, informative. Yeah, how about that? Informative info. That's really redundant.
Yes.
Really redundant. So I'm off to a rip-roaring start. But this is take three, and it is going to work. I am no longer flustered. My mojo is back. So let's do it.
And I'm back together. And I'm not going to talk about it on air.
No.
It'll be, there's, stuff comes out eventually, but I just want to catch my brother up on everything.
Oh, sure. No, I understand.
And we're all meeting for supper on Thursday, I believe. So Steve, the great supporter that he is of the show and everything that has to do with the podcast, we will be having dinner together.
Okay. That sounds great. So is this how you speak to him, is through the podcast only?
Yeah. Well, because then when we're sitting there eating dinner, I'll have to write a little note saying, did you hear what I said on the last podcast? Because talking we don't do.
Okay. And so even if you do like meet up in person, you actually pull out like your iPhone and play the podcast for him.
No, sticky notes.
Oh, sticky notes. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you'd like sit down and say, Steve, I have something important to tell you. And then you press play. And then here you go on the podcast. So
yeah.
That's good. That's good that you
a lot of changes, a lot of developments in my story, and it's just same old stuff, stuff added to it.
Yeah, I know, but you're a soldier, and you're going to soldier forth as
my soldiering days are over.
Well, no, once a soldier, always a soldier.
That's true.
Even if you reside most of the time from the confines of your comfy couch now, because physical limitations and through no fault of your own, obviously. But
that is true.
But again, Mike, thanks for making this work. Like I said, It is Monday. It is now 4:15 in the afternoon, January 16th. Yeah, let's do this.
And it's snowing here a lot. Are you getting any snow over there?
It just did start snowing about half an hour ago. So, and it snowed earlier today, maybe like a half an inch, not even. But, we'll see how that goes.
Enough of that. Let's push on.
Yeah, I know. Do you got anything else you want to throw out there?
Yeah. Well, let's just start talking for about 30 seconds, and
Okay.
I'll throw something out.
Okay. What do you want? Do you have a new shampoo that you'd like to promote?
No.
Okay. Any canned foods that you are offering? Anything? Nothing? Okay.
Well, I do have this can of emerald shelled walnuts that I've shown to you before.
That is true.
But I don't think it's walnuts in there anymore.
It's something that has probably changed. It is.
Yeah, it's a very, very old can.
Yeah. It's gone through changes, sort of like the Mogwai does in this cocoon.
Yeah.
It's changed totally to a different form of life somehow. But
Yeah.
anyhow,
And it starts talking. There's the Tony Randall voice again.
there it is. That's right. And thank you to Angela for pointing out that, hey, I know who Tony Randall is. Give your listeners a little more credit.
Yeah, and she's quite young, it seems like.
Yeah, and I pointed out too, very politely and respectfully, I said, I think I did correct myself in the last episode, where I immediately correct myself and said, like, I think I'm cutting our listeners short a little bit by assuming that none of them knew who Tony Randall was.
We have great and awesome listeners, so
all of them.
We can't go wrong with them.
Well, Mike, this is part 2 of our new sub-series, Bigfoot Encounters. This one is going for, no pun intended, a biggie here. Not Ron Moorhead's biggie, but probably the most famous example of quote-unquote Bigfoot / Sasquatch evidence. Yeah, we're going to be focusing on not only the Patterson film, but we're going to be talking about the men behind
the Gimlin film as well.
Yes, we're going to be talking about the men behind that film, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. We're going to save all the scientific semantics and all that good stuff. We're not going to break down all the details frame by frame of this. I mean, well, it is infamous. You and I think our listeners know we are firm believers that this is legit.
Absolutely.
Always have been. Have you ever had any doubt at all, Mike, about the Patterson film?
I don't think that I have. I mean, like when I first saw it as a little kid, it was like, wow, I wonder if that could be true. But then, you see it so many times and you look for it and research it and you really get into the whole story. And there's no doubt in my mind.
I remember you saying on some, it might have been a Patreon episode. I guess I don't remember exactly. But didn't you say that you saw it? Or you saw someone talking about it on like a talk show it wasn't like a late night show, or when the hell did you first see that? Or do you not recall?
I don't recall that one. I know that I was watching something in the 70s. It would have been like In Search of, like we've talked about before. Of
course.
The original neat old series from back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And this you can't get more famous, more analyzed, again, frame by frame. This thing is just, it stood the test of time. No matter how much people want to debunk it, it hasn't been debunked. It hasn't been proven either real or hoax. And to me, that adds legitimacy to it. Just because, over 55 years, well past that now. What? No, going on 55 years now. Creepers. Just over 55 years. Yeah, it was last October. It was the 55th anniversary. So yeah. Man.
Actually, the very first time I might have witnessed that story could have actually been from a Weekly World News back in like
good old Weekly
early 70s. And then when there were stories like that in those types of newspapers, a lot of people just really, the legitimacy for a lot of people just went out the window.
Oh, of course, yeah. Especially when it takes it takes the back seat to Bat Boy or whatever the hell else.
Exactly, yeah.
It's on the cover of the wonderful Weekly World News.
Yeah.
God, where do we begin? This is such a. I mean, the story is timeless. Obviously, let's just talk a little bit about the men themselves, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin.
Only one is left with us.
Yeah, unfortunately, Roger passed away in 1972.
I was going to say quite some time ago.
Yeah, he was still a fairly young man, passed away from the devil cancer, sadly. Went to his dying day, defending what he filmed, what he saw. Well, let's talk about Roger for a little bit. He was a rodeo hand, I guess. He was a very experienced rodeo man. In between jobs during the time of this recording, I want to throw out a real quick plug. If no one else out there right now has purchased this book, I can't recommend Jeff Meldrum's Sasquatch, When Legend Meets Science enough. I have just devoured that book over the last week and a half, Mike. I've gone through it almost three times now already. It is so good. If you are a fervent believer in this and you have family members or friends who think you're an idiot for believing in Sasquatch and the legitimacy of the Patterson film, just hand them Jeff Meldrum's book. Point out a few chapters, maybe just a line or two, and see how they feel about that.
But you have had Bigfoot on the brain quite a bit lately.
I have. Yeah, hence our 2 episodes in a row with Bigfoot Encounters. Okay, before we talk about Roger Patterson, real briefly, Mike, before I forget, I want to ask you, in your mind, I mean, it's kind of close, kind of a toss-up. What is more important to you? What do you think is more legit / fascinating / meaningful as far as Bigfoot evidence goes? The Sierra Sound recordings by Ron Moorhead or the Patterson film?
Oh, wow. Well, it's got to be the Patterson film. But the Ron Moorhead stuff, I mean, it's right up there with it.
I know.
I mean, we can't keep them, too far apart. I mean, not at all. And the time frame between the two when they happened really wasn't that far off. I mean,
absolutely not. No.
And it's just, the beginning of the Bigfoot craze in our world,
Yeah. No, 100%.
Both of them.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, Roger Patterson, back in 1967, before this famous film was recorded, he was in between jobs. He was a rodeo rider. He was friends with a man named Bob Gimlin. Bob Gimlin was a horse rancher and a carpenter. They had been friends for quite some time. Now, as my professional notes are telling me, Mike, you see my notes right here.
I see it.
Lots of slappy notes right there.
Looks like you wrote it in like ketchup or something.
Well,
or crayon.
No, that's pen. But
okay.
I noticed when I'm writing down my notes for the podcast, my handwriting skills just plummet. I mean, it's like only I can read it.
Yeah,
and
that's me too.
I have pretty decent handwriting, but
yeah. Hey, I got there's a couple little trivia questions for you.
Oh.
Do you know where?
A trivia question just out of nowhere.
It applies.
Okay.
Where in this country was Roger Patterson from?
Oh my gosh!
Chance, do you know?
You're putting me on the spot. What do you mean? Where in the entire country?
Yes. Where in this country was he born and raised?
So is this like where in Carmen San Diego is Roger Patterson type?
Well, I'm just asking if you know where he's from.
No, you tell the listeners where he's from. Please do me a favor. You put me on the spot. I couldn't tell you where he was born.
Well, there's a famous drugstore there that, at least around these parts, you see quite often, probably around your parts as well.
Walgreens?
Wall Drug.
Wall Drug. Okay, so he was born inside a Wall Drug.
Well, South Dakota. Wall, South Dakota.
Oh, I understand where you're going there. I see.
Boy, did I really stumble around on that to
I think you did.
Make you not understand?
I was like, what the hell? What does Walgreens have to... Was he,
you said Walgreens.
Was he conceived and born in the Walgreens? Wow.
Yeah. No, he was born February 14th, 1933, and he died in January of 1972.
Right.
Very young man.
Yeah, far too young. Far too young. Like I said earlier, of the devil cancer.
Well, his wife, Patricia Patterson, shows here that she died in 1972 as well.
Oh my gosh, no kidding.
But they don't know. They don't have a year for her being born or them being married. Anyway.
Wow, that's terrible. God
yeah.
Dang it. Now I'm kind of depressed now. Let's see here. According to my professional notes, as I mentioned, 1967, Roger Patterson, rodeo rider. He first took interest into this alleged Bigfoot phenomena after he read a 1959 article written by Ivan Sanderson. And
we should try and find that eventually.
Yeah, do some deep
What was
diving
his name again? I'm going to write that down.
Mr. Ivan Sanderson.
Okay, got it.
That's kind of a well-known name in the Bigfoot realm.
Well,
So much so that it piqued Roger's interest, and he became sort of an amateur Bigfoot. I don't want to say researcher, but he was going out and about, and he started taking plaster casts. He was footprints, alleged footprints, and he was going all in on this. He wanted to capture any sort of quote unquote proof that there was this being kind of lurking out in the California wilderness / mountains. By the way, what better place for a large biped to maintain its mystery, its mystique? I mean, it's fairly near the coastline. I mean, it's heavy wooded areas. It's it's definitely not well traveled. I mean, my God, it's pretty remote. I can't think of a better place, really. So, I'm trying to say I'm not going to look out my backyard as much as I like my woods. Probably not going to see a Bigfoot, unfortunately.
no. Well, but you never know, though.
Never know.
So
there's a chance.
It's possible.
There's a chance.
There is a chance. Of course, there is.
Is there a chance that you could see one too out the window in Enderlin right now?
No. You'd see him coming from like 8 miles away. They can't sneak up on anybody in North Dakota.
That's very, very true. Very flat landscape.
Open prairie land. Yeah, I look out my back window. Well, first I see a hill, but if you go at the top of that hill, you can see for miles.
Now, getting back to Mr. Roger Patterson before we get to the film itself. As I mentioned, his interest had peaked. He had become kind of an amateur researcher himself. During a 1964 business trip, he actually met up with Mr. Ivan Sanderson to kind of learn as much as he could, again, about this Bigfoot mystery. I want to backtrack a little bit too, Mike, because, and we'll talk about this later, there's another aspect of this story that's important. I believe it was 1958 when a lot of this, I'm doing air quotes, the Bigfoot phenomena sort of started with the Ray Wallace footprints that he cast.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall the name Ray Wallace?
Yes, I do, actually.
We won't focus on him because he went back and forth. What he did, it could have been legit, but he could have been a full-fledged hoaxer as well. I mean, he was caught in hoaxes himself, but then he claimed that he was hoaxing the footprints to protect Bigfoot because he was fearing that they'd get shot from hunters and all that good stuff.
Well, we got to come up with an excuse.
And, he originally claimed that he faked these plaster casts as well to prevent theft of his heavy machinery that he had.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, but
I remember hearing that. Yeah.
It's just so much stuff. It's like once you say one tiny little fib, everything else is out the window.
It's gone. Yeah.
I mean,
you can't even think about it again. But
no, I mean, even if you're being totally truthful and stuff. And again, the whole Ray Wallace story is heavily covered in Jeff Meldrum's book. Jeff believes him. He believes that there was Sasquatch out there, but again, the way that Ray went about. Went about talking about it because he at first took the plaster cast, brought him right down to the newspaper, and they published an article. The next day, Bigfoot was plastered, no pun intended, plastered all over, the media across the country. And that, it just kind of, it took off, but also kind of plummeted at the same time there.
Right. So then when, not that much longer when these other reports come out and then the Patterson film comes out, they'll remember that previous experience with, and it's gonna shoot down, Patterson and Gimlin from the beginning from many people.
Absolutely, yep. That's how pseudo skepticism works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now,
what about when you and I were, I think it was when we were going up to Duluth for the Para-Unity, we stopped in that little town that had a bunch of Bigfoot stuff in it. Remember, it was almost like a Bigfoot flea market or something they had going on.
Yeah, it was actually, I think we happened to go through during a weekend. I want to say it was like an art festival or something was going on there. It was in Reamer, the small town of Reamer.
Reamer, that's right, yeah.
Remer. Yeah, we got some great names here in Minnesota. Reamer, I think, is right next to Climax, and that's I'm not exaggerating there.
No, you're not.
No.
That's like, never mind. I won't tell that.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
They had some actual, I'm not sure. Was it the actual plaster cast that was taken,
In
or
that
was
building.
or was it a duplicate that they had there on display? I guess I don't recall. I want to say it was the actual plaster cast.
That's what I seem to remember too.
Because the Finding Bigfoot team had
Exactly.
filmed there in the Reamer area.
That's right.
That's right. It's all coming back to me now. I know I took a picture of it, but I have no idea where the hell it is.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Oh, very interesting. And again, getting back to the Ray Wallace thing, he also claims to have lost, over $40,000 of his business expenditures because he had like over 15 employees quit on location there out of fear of this mysterious creature lurking about. Right. And so he says, why would I make it up? I lost money. I got my workers quitting on me. Some of these plaster casts of these footprints were taken on slopes that are just like unbelievably steep, and they're the weight that would have been required for a fake footprint to cause the depth of the imprints on these slopes would be like downright dangerous for a human to even try to get up there.
Yeah, exactly. And wearing a suit like that.
Or just or even just with stupid crap tied to their feet.
Now, is that the same case where? Because I remember hearing the story. I think on an Art Bell program many years ago, where there was a prints found of a Bigfoot, but it actually showed like the print of the body and part of the arm and like the knuckles pushing into the ground.
That sounds
when
like
it was trying to push itself up.
That's the Skookum cast.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah.
Again, another thing that's covered in detail in Meldrum's book. This
fascinating.
This isn't going to be an episode of totally plugging Jeff Meldrum's book all the time. No. But if I could, I would, because
but it's worth it.
It's worth it. The Skookum cast is another fascinating piece of evidence that just it can't be debunked. It just cannot be debunked, no matter how hard people try to do so.
Yeah.
Again, getting back to Ray Wallace before we continue with Roger Patterson. When Ray passed away in the early 2000s, I believe it was, his family immediately came forth and said, oh, by the way, Ray is basically known as the man who, quote unquote, created Bigfoot. And they even went so far as to say that they were part of the creation of the Patterson Gimlin film. Going so far as to say, I believe it was the mother, Ray's wife, who said she was the one in the suit. They even went about trying to demonstrate how they created these fake tracks and this was filmed for a television program, of course. How they would strap these fake feet to their feet and go about trying to stomp away in wet mud, but all they did was their feet would get stuck. They'd fall over, because there's no give in these fake feet, and they even went to so far as to say, well, how do you explain, the distance between the strides, like the 70-inch from one print to the next? They went and said, well, old Ray, what he did is he strapped those feet on his feet and he tied himself to the back of a truck. And as the truck slowly pulled him along, he would leap and leap. And it's like, how ridiculous is this? It's like, come on, people. But of course, that gets put out on television and people say, oh, see, it's all fake. They claim it's fake.
Jesus. 7 rays a leaping.
There you go.
God, that's crazy.
And I posted this question on our Patreon page too. Well, it wasn't really a question. It was kind of a statement. But I was like, when you think about the number of people who have claimed to be in the suit in the Patterson film, doesn't that add credence to its legitimacy when even the liars can't get it straight here?
Absolutely, because there's no way that you could find a suit big enough to fit all of them in.
Well, we're going to play a clip of one such people later on, Mr. Bob Hieronymus, who claimed that he was the guy in the suit, and it's just kind of humorous. I found it just before we started recording. I remember watching this program 2005, and it was basically just saying, the Bigfoot Patterson film proven to be a hoax. And I was like, well, first off, no, it wasn't. Just because you got Bob Hieronymus and his friends sitting around a bar, talking about, yeah, I'm in the suit. Well, that doesn't mean that you were, my friend, but anyway.
Yeah, if you look real close, you can see the ring from my Copenhagen in the back pocket of the pants I was wearing.
Well, then they had him demonstrate his walk.
That's right. Outside in front of the bar, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess you got kind of a unique walk, but no.
But how many people over the years have imitated and done that for anything on TV? Elf did it, for crying out loud, in Central Park.
He did. I know he did.
You know?
Okay, getting back to Roger Patterson. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Also piquing his interest is during his research, he had spoken with tribal elders in the Yakima area, in California there, and he learned from them that, according to their beliefs, the Sasquatch used to roam the wilderness by the thousands, hundreds of years ago, maybe thousands of years ago. And now, for whatever reason, maybe because of the inhabitation of man, their population has slowly been decimated. Wow.
Yeah, like everything else.
Where does that sound familiar? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a rational explanation to me. I mean, there's so many possible ideas for it. Again, is it a relic of Gigantopithecus? Is it something that traveled over here, when the land bridge was actually above water, and I mean, yeah, it takes millions of years to do it. And it's not like all these Gigantopithecus, Gigantopitheci, maybe. It's not like they all said, all right,
Gigantopithecus.
We need to immigrate by tomorrow. Let's pack up. Let's get on over to North America. No, it doesn't. It takes millions of years. We get that. So, Mike,
I'm tired of the weather over here.
I know, exactly. Leave. My hair's getting thin. We need to go to warmer climates. I thought you were shaking your head at me for a second, like, Patrick, you're just going off on a worthless tangent yet again. Okay, fine. Now, Mr. Bob Gimlin, again, we're not going to be diving into the life histories of these gentlemen here, but just kind of set up a backstory. Bob Gimlin, as I mentioned earlier, was a horse rancher and a carpenter. He was, during the time, he was actually in between jobs as well. Roger was kind of jobless, again, which that adds more weight to the skeptics. Like, oh, they're just trying to find cheap, quick ways to make money. It's like, no, that's not
quick, big money.
When you're a rancher, or when you're particularly a carpenter, you go through stretches where you don't have a job. I mean, that's just the nature of the work. Now, getting back to the film itself, a lot of people question, well, what the hell were they doing out there in the remote wilderness / mountains with a camera anyways, with a 24 millimeter. What are they doing out there? Well,
it's like everything's too set up, too well to be a coincidence and just to catch it out there.
Well, but it's not like it's a little known fact. Again, to mention earlier, Roger had been researching Bigfoot. He had been trying to capture evidence of it for years. He convinced Bob to join him on a trek. With the intention, this is Roger now, with the intention of filming and making a documentary about the mystery of Sasquatch, filming footprints, filming their expedition, filming the land, what have you, because he wanted, under the hopes, he wanted to be able to sell that documentary to further finance more research into the Bigfoot phenomena. Sounds perfectly reasonable to me. Or does that sound hokey to you? No, Mike's dying.
No,
you're fine. Nope, he's dying again. No, that's just a sneeze.
Okay. Oh, I was fighting a sneeze back there. Yes, I totally understand that. Yeah,
you're fighting a sneeze face. Looks like you're looking death in the eye.
I know. Then my eyes got all watery. Anyway, so yes, carry on with what you were saying.
I mean, does that not sound reasonable to you, or does that sound hokey to you?
No, it doesn't sound hokey. I totally understand. I agree.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, I forgot what you're talking about, but I agree.
I can tell.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I know what you're talking
when Mike's in doubt, he just says, I agree.
I say that in text messages a lot.
He does.
And then you'll end up saying, well, which part did you agree about?
You do that so often. I give Mike like multiple options. I say, should we do this?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Or possibly this? And he said, that sounds good.
Yeah. Let's just do it all.
So I write back, what sounds good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike. You're the best,
Yeah.
man. You're the best. Getting back to my ultra professional notes here. They had packed up with about 2 weeks of supplies. They had two saddle horses, one pack horse, Bob Gimlin's 1-ton 2-wheel drive truck, which is kind of important to point out as well, because when we get to that point after they had filmed this, and well, I guess I'll just talk about it now. I'm skipping all over the place, but that's what we do here in the Paranormally Zone. After they had captured the film and he returned to base camp, and they tied up their horses, and they wanted to get back to town to watch what they had on film, because they didn't know if they caught anything. Because Roger fell down when they first saw this, and their horses went wild.
Yeah.
Roger was trying to reach for his camera while holding his horse steady as he could. One of the pack horse took off. Bob was able to maintain his. When Roger gets on the ground, he starts running towards the creature, the being. Well, he runs into the slope and falls flat on his face, basically. And you can kind of see, the film itself is pretty jittery.
Yeah. Then you see him reaching for his life alert.
Yeah, right.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Yes, that's a part that was that part was actually edited out of it, even though there is no audio. So
and then just before the she Bigfoot was disappearing into the woods, you can see her turning around and you can read her lips going, "That had to hurt."
That right? With very clear articulation. You can see the teeth. You can figure out what it's saying. No, we're kidding.
The breasts are swaying still.
Well, they are. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, that's a big important part of the story. No pun intended with big.
That hairy glutamus maximus is all twitchy and
it's
hair
massive.
flowing on it.
It's massive. Again, when you get to when you break down. Again, we're not going to dive into this because we are not capable of doing the scientific breakdown of it. But, when you, again, listen to Jeff's book, you read Jeff's book, you just listen to smart people. It's the proportions, the physicality, the musculature, the movement.
The hair itself,
the
arms,
itself,
the arm lengths, the
arm
everything.
length,
the turning of the head and
the size,
the shoulders,
the size of the jaw muscles. I mean, the overall bulk. This is our favorite word of the podcast. The bulge that appears out of its leg. That when it takes a step, it's like perfectly in line with well, it's anatomically correct. Basically, it's what you should see. I started going down this line because Mike said glutamus maximus, and I was going to say, the glutes are just massive. Yeah. I mean, everything about this,
it's all pure muscle. I mean, and it's so muscular. It's showing through that thick fur.
Yeah.
And that's definitely saying something there. If they were to fake this, what would they do in Hollywood? They'd put like air bladders in there where they'd fill them up with air and make them move and look like they're flexing. There is none of that going on. You just know that. There was a wide enough shot where you could see everything. There was nothing, coming out from the bottom of the leg of the suit or anything that would be, wires or air hoses or anything. It's just, you think of all that stuff and you put it together as it was an actual creature.
Well, even the discrepancies of the plaster cast or the foot, before they were taking plaster casts, the footprints themselves, the toes appear to be different lengths. You know why? Because they're grasping the ground. They're helping it balance. There's different depths of the prints. The prints themselves are heavier than the hoof prints that their horses left. For gosh sakes.
Exactly. And there are footprints that have been made plaster casts out of that. They show bone breakage where it didn't heal right, where like part of the foot or is missed or deformed or misshapen because of a
Yeah.
break, and they can see these. I mean, people aren't going to do this stuff and make it, look real enough for a scientist to say, or this is a real legitimate cast.
Well, that's something that I think you're referring to the famous Grover Krantz footprint.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the crippled foot that's basically kind of bent, almost like into a sideways V, I guess. With the big. Yeah,
it's very, very distinctive. Yeah.
Here's that word again, with a bulge on the side. But yeah, these prints, back in 1967. I don't care what anyone tries to tell us. The capabilities of creating a suit like that just wasn't possible.
Right. Well, and like what we've talked about before on a much earlier episode that we've talked about this, we compared it to Hollywood and what Hollywood could do at that time,
right?
Which is the Planet of the Apes movies,
and it looked better, 100 million times better.
Oh, huge, yeah. So yeah, there's a definite difference, and the money that it would have taken to build something like this and to put it together.
Yeah, and these guys are jobless, by the way. At the time.
Exactly.
Well, Roger was, Bob was in between jobs. They're not exactly rolling in dough. Not even close. Not even close. And I'm not disparaging them at all. It happens. It's just, it's tough out there, man. It's tough to make a living. I can imagine trying to make a living as a rodeo hand. I mean, I can't imagine that's very much of a very profitable.
I wouldn't make a living of it because I'd die on the first time I tried it.
Well, would they strap you? Would you be allowed to lay on top of the horse? strap you down?
Yeah, in bubble wrap. And I won't do it in the dirt. It'll be on like a trampoline or something.
I gotcha. And now circling all the way back to Bob Gimlin again, and Roger Patterson, when they went to town and they were able to actually watch what they had captured. Quoting Bob Gimlin, I remember I heard him say this in an interview, and I read it as well. He was like, what? I was rather disappointed in what we captured because, quite frankly, I thought we had a lot more. Because what he was kind of thinking about was the amount of time that this creature was in his sight line was a hell of a lot longer than that minute
what they actually got. Yeah, it was like 60 seconds. Yeah,
I mean, it was they come around the corner in the bluff there right before the creek, and that according to Bob, it was standing and staring right at them. The horses see it. The horses spook. Roger, who always kept one buckle of his saddlebag open, just in case, so he could still hold on to his horse and use one hand to grab his camera. He had been practicing that.
Yeah.
Just in case. His horse is jumping all over the place. He manages to get the camera, and like I said earlier, he kind of runs and falls, and Bob's watching it the whole time. Bob, when the creature's walking away, the famous frame when the creature turns and looks towards Roger, it does it twice, but there's one that's more prominent.
Mm-hmm.
Where the arms are, flayed out
to
each side. That's when Bob Gimlin's horse crossed the creek, and so it was like responding to something's behind me. They're coming towards me. Bob at that point got off his horse, was still holding onto his horse, and grabbed his gun with no intention of shooting in case they felt they needed to. They had agreed beforehand to not shoot if they came across one in case, unless they had to defend themselves. Which again, I find that the right choice, absolutely the right choice.
Quite commendable.
Very, very commendable.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm sorry if I'm jumping all over the place, but this is a passionate subject of mine, and there's so much stuff that I want to get out. If this was faked, Bob Gimlin certainly doesn't seem to be. He was either totally innocent and absolutely ignorant. I'm not saying ignorant in a bad way. He just was totally unknowledgeable, unaware of any malicious intent on Roger Patterson's part. But one thing he throws out there time after time after time, he says, if that was a man in a suit, how in the hell did Roger or the man in the suit know that I wasn't going to shoot it? You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
They agreed to not shoot it beforehand unless they needed to out of self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
But how can you predict anything? How do you know how this thing is going to react? How do you know how you are going to act until you are in that situation? Even if you agree to not shoot,
yeah,
you don't necessarily know that you're not going to.
In a situation like that, from second to second, you don't know what's going to happen next.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can imagine the adrenaline.
Oh, and how long it took them to calm down.
Yeah.
Well, when they decided they were disappointed in the footage they cut, I guess.
Yeah, that's, and they're able to watch that, and they're like, man. Well, that was Bob. Bob was kind of like disappointed. Right. Roger was static. He was ecstatic. So much so he called up his friend Al Hodgson, who was the store proprietor there in Willow Creek, and he called him up and he says, quote unquote, "I got a picture of the son of a buck."
Yeah. And
according to Al Hodgson, he was Roger was always a very calm man, of calm demeanor, very kind of quiet. And he said that he'd never seen him this excited ever before, or heard him this excited ever before. Al Hodgson then promptly called John Green, scientist, researcher, to come, and he's like, "We got tracks up here. You need to come check them out." And which they did the following day, the following days. After watching the film, you have to forgive me. I'm going off the top of my head now, Mike. After watching the film, Bob and Roger returned to base camp. They couldn't go to sleep. They stayed up for hours talking about what they had seen and what was their next plan of attack. And then, as tends to be, nature reared its ugly head, and a damn near monsoon decides to start coming in, and they were wondering, Bob in particular, we need to get back up there and cover up those tracks before it gets washed away completely. Now, for whatever reason, Roger said, "No, I think the rain will pass," but it didn't. Bob, when they went to town, had actually grabbed a bunch of pieces of cardboard from Al Hodgson to cover up the tracks, but by the time he remembered he had them, they had been absolutely soaked. So it's interesting. Then Bob decides to hop on his horse, and he goes up there himself, and he covers up as many tracks as he can with tree bark, actually. And that seemed to do the job fairly okay. Now, this goes back to why I brought up the idea that he had a two-wheel drive 1-ton truck. Because of this downpour, it got downright dangerous up there. Mike.
I'm sure it did.
Bob wanted to go. Took some convincing. Roger wanted to stay. Bob decided to make a break for it, basically, before it got any worse. Long story short, they encountered mudslides, trees coming down the canyon slopes. The creek itself had already expanded by over 4 feet, and they were on the wrong side of the creek. Again, a lot of shit to go through to fake something.
Exactly. Why would you do that if it,
Mike, if you and I want to hoax something, we'll do it from the comfort of our living room.
Yeah. At least from the comfort of our vehicle with, depending on what time of the year it is, either the heat or the air on.
Well, very good. Very well said.
And snacks.
Well, Mike, we need snacks. Well, what happens if we need to throw something to Bigfoot? I mean,
there you go. Have an apple.
Here's a Dorito. Oh, yeah, apple. Yeah. That's better. Give them some chips.
Yeah.
Here's some unbelievably salty corn chips for you, Biggie.
Yeah. Well, remember here in the Hendersons, don't give them a burger or anything. God forbid. Don't have a deer head hanging in your kitchen or nothing.
Now, when they were in town, they reached out to, like I said, Al Hodgson reached out to John Green. They also inquired about getting some dogs to help track the footprints as soon as they possibly could. With the weather, that really inhibited that, obviously. After they initially had filmed this being, they did follow it for as far as they could. The tracks kind of started sloping downward and actually crossed over a back road, which is interesting. I didn't know that part. I knew that it's kind of the creature, you see it in the film, actually walking far and far away down kind of the slope. I didn't know that it actually went over a back road and then up the canyon side, a super steep cliff.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't know that
Yep.
one. Now, it's interesting to note that upon further research into the area afterwards, that there was an impression in the slope up on the cliff that just happened to look just like some large creature decided to sit down and look back down at the two gentlemen following them.
Watching him come up.
Isn't that crazy?
And all because there's a hairy butt crack imprint in the mud.
Right, sorry. Yeah, the original Skookum cast right there.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. For some reason, that just fascinates me, just how it kind of sits back. And
Well, yeah, it really adds a lot to the story. I mean, it just doesn't end with her going into the woods.
And there are multiple size tracks, Mike, suggesting
Okay, so that says a lot there.
there
too.
were several. It is theorized that there were two potential, maybe youngsters of the mother Sasquatch. That who knows where they were. I know I've heard people say that if you look really close, you can see what looks like a face in the woods. And it's like, well,
yeah, it's probably three branches that are crossing each other just the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but who knows? It could have been.
Knows? But I mean, there's no dispute that there were three different size footprints.
I don't think these are solitary, creatures anyway, in my opinion. I'm sure there's going to be a rogue or whatever, like there is with any animal species, I think. But I think they're highly social within their own group.
No, that wouldn't be shocking. Definitely.
Right. Yeah. And they're camouflaging, they're hiding in their way of not being seen. There could have been 20 more sitting, standing there.
Well, let's be honest. That would be terrifying, but we don't know. We don't know if they're
extremely exciting.
It'd be very, very exciting. We don't know if they, I don't want to say either way. Going by my gut, I don't think that they're a dangerous, being. I hate saying the word creature. Why does creature bother me? So I keep saying being. I don't get a bad vibe. I don't get a bad vibe from Biggie, Mike.
Yeah, I don't either. Really. But like with anything, there's going to be times where,
of course,
well, that's a pissed off one, or that one's not very nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
or it's like, who the hell are these idiot, beings following us? They won't leave us alone. It's like, I'm just trying to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We just don't know. We don't know enough or actually know anything about the inside of their head and their thinking. And, we just don't know enough to even speculate on so many things.
I want to share that short audio clip here because we're already at 46 minutes. And God damn it. We're going to have to wrap it up here in like half an hour. We got a lot of shit to go through.
Do it.
I want to play that clip, but before that, when you said, something about the size of the head what's in their head, that's what it was.
Right.
It also brought me back to another great point that Jeff said. He actually said that when we interviewed him too. If you remember this, Mike, when he says a lot of the skeptics keep saying it's obviously a man in a suit because it doesn't have like the female hips. It doesn't have like the walk of a female would, of a female biped, and like Jeff said, he goes, well, first off, the head size of this being in proportion to the rest of its body, the size of its head means, well, let me rephrase that. When you think of the size of this being's head compared to its hip size, it makes sense because as opposed to a human female hip width, and the birth canal needs to be a certain size in order to fit our giant noggins through there.
Yep.
This one didn't need that.
Right.
So
each
why would it
species
have?
Is built, to do what they need to do. Yeah.
And obviously, Jeff Meldrum is so eloquent, and he explains it a million times better than I just attempted to. But you get the point. Go watch that. Go watch our interview with him on YouTube.
It's so worth it. He's such an awesome guy. Yeah.
All right, Mike. I'm going to play that clip.
Yes.
Because it wouldn't, it wouldn't be proper if we didn't, show both sides. And this is just one small aspect. This is from a 2005 program. It's called Bigfoot Patterson Film Hoax Solved. 2005. This is a 4-minute, 49-second clip. It starts off with an intro as to what's in the film, and then we get to meet Mr. Bob Hieronymus, who claims to be in the suit.
Yeah.
upright walking biped in that film that has arms and legs in terms of the limb ratios, the speed, the stride length. Nothing can be determined from that film. There's not enough data in it. And to make claims otherwise isn't scientifically valid.
It's time to go back to the source, Washington's Cascade Mountains, where the Bigfoot filmmakers grew up. If the Patterson film is a hoax, there are 3 witnesses. One, Roger Patterson, is dead. The second, Bob Gimlin, isn't talking.
Which, by the way, Bob Gimlin has been talking a lot lately. But at that time, he wasn't, because as we will talk about before we wrap up the show, Bob wasn't exactly embracing this whole idea of being a part of this Bigfoot phenomenon, because quite frankly, it was affecting his life in a negative way and his family's life. I mean, again, it adds more legitimacy, Mike, in my eyes. Why would you fake something like this ultimately just to be harassed endlessly?
Yeah.
I mean, your wife being brought to tears, on a daily basis because of this hoax that you were supposedly a part of. Doesn't make sense to me.
No, and he's really embraced it. I mean, over the years.
He has. He had to be convinced to basically come out of hiding, to come and start talking about it again, and then he's only continued doing it based on the positive response since
exactly. Then. And yeah, we do have a request in for him to be on the show, but
yes,
the representative wasn't too well. She took it down, I guess.
No. It went. She's very, 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 very positive, very, very nice lady, and this was over a year and a half ago when I first proposed this, and she said absolutely. And then it got to the point where we'd have to probably travel a couple of states to meet him at a convention. And then it got to the point where, and which is totally understandable. I mean, he's in his 90s, and she says that Bob he has to really turn down a lot of interviews right now. He says, no disrespect, but we can't say yes right now. And I said, I totally, we understand. Give Bob our best.
Absolutely.
So,
a huge bucket list, but I mean, they aren't all going to work, obviously.
No. All right, continuing with the clip here.
Yeah.
So the question is, what about the guy in the suit? Several people have come forward over the years to claim that particular honor. We're here to meet Bob Hieronymus, who as a young man used to ride with Patterson and Gimlin. Bob claims that back in '67, he was the guy who strode across Bluff Creek in Patterson's Bigfoot suit. Around here, there are a lot of people who will back Bob's story up. And, well, there's that walk.
People say I walk like Bigfoot anyway.
To his friends, Bob's Bigfoot role is old news.
I've heard a lot of people say, can you believe that old Bob was really Bigfoot? That was a lot of people say that,
Bob says his secret wasn't much of a secret around here.
My biggest concern always was that somebody's going to shoot you,
That was my big concern wearing the
That was my big concern all the time.
Everybody around here, after a few years, that was me.
Oh, yeah. We knew it.
We all just everybody just kept it quiet.
According to Bob, Roger Patterson approached him in the fall of 1967 with an offer that was too good to pass up.
He wanted a pretty good sized guy, somebody that they could trust to wear this Bigfoot suit. They said, we'll pay you $1,000 and it'll only take about 10 minutes. So I was 26 years old at the time. I jumped on it,
After a trial run in Yakima, Bob says, they all shook hands and agreed to rendezvous in California in a few weeks' time. They met up in Bluff Creek, home of the infamous Wallace tracks and many Bigfoot sightings.
Wallace tracks.
The next morning we got up and they made coffee and saddled up the horses, put the Bigfoot suit on the back of one of the horses. And we went seemed like about a half a mile.
First off, there's a lot of lack of detail in that story. I mean, it sounds like any other day out in the woods for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Woke up, had a cup of coffee, got the horses ready. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, then I put the Bigfoot suit on the horse. Then we headed on out. anyways, sorry.
From where they were camped up into this place where they had picked out before I got there to film the Bigfoot film. We unloaded the suit, and of course they helped me in it. It was in October, you know, and I figured everybody be hunters. Most people go to the mountains and have a gun, you know. You know, it was so hot inside that suit, and the sweat was just rolling off me, and I was nervous, you know, and a little bit claustrophobic. Roger told me to go over at this certain place and stand there. I got out there and waited, and he gave me the signal. He was sitting on one of my horse that he took down there, and so he took the camera and kind of went like that. You know, as you can see, the film is shaky. I started walking out across there, and I walked, I don't know how many yards it was, and I turned, you know, the old Bigfoot looked and looked at him and went on. All this time, you know, waiting for a bullet to crack through my butt. That was the end of it.
Good job.
I thought I'd done a pretty good job. Millions.
Okay, that's only about 10 seconds left. So, I mean, maybe he's telling the truth, Mike.
I don't know. I don't get a really good vibe from him.
So, but if he's
telling the story,
if he's in the suit, then I thought Ray Wallace's wife was in the suit. So,
yeah. See, they can't even get it all straight throughout the whole thing. I mean,
and this, you know, let's be clear, Bob Hieronymus isn't the only person who has claimed to have been in the suit, nor is Ray Wallace family the only ones to claim to be involved in the film. There are so many. That's just it's muddled, and it adds to the frustration because the pseudo skeptics will just jump all over that.
Oh yeah, and you know, when that story aired and everything, people that may have been on the fence about it, you know, that changed a lot of people's mind right there too. Just seeing that, and it's like, well, that's what it is, and a lot of people are going to believe it. You know, it's the people that you know, have really done a lot of research into it or looked into it, and it's been such a great interest for so long that you know, it's easier to have a different idea about the legitimacy of it.
Now, you know, before we wrap it up, let's try and get another 20 minutes in here, Mike. Now, after, you know, returning to the base camp, you know, and barely getting out, you know, alive, surviving the mudslides and, you know, the monsoon, Roger was very, very excited to get his film out. He was planning on shipping it off to, you know, people in New York, people in on the West Coast. You know, he wanted people to see it and tell them what it was, what they thought. He was talked out of it by, you know, I believe it was John Green who said, like, no, I think we need to have this studied and then shown to a panel of like scientists and anthropologists. And that's what happened. It was in the University of British Columbia that this was sent off to. And that brings up my second question here, Mike. After the initial viewing, you know, I don't know the exact number of scientists, anthropologists, anatomists who were attending this screening. Maybe 3% of them gave it a chance at being legit.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of them immediately said, no, that's nothing.
Well, it goes against what they believe or what they would teach.
I'm drawing a blank on his name, but even one, you know, well-renowned and respected teacher and scientist, you know, he just says, yeah, I sat down and watched this minute of foolishness and came to the quick conclusion that it was, you know, just a man in a monkey suit and it's so obvious and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, okay, first off, to me, that attitude isn't scientific in any way, shape, or form. When you sit down with a preconceived take,
that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And you can't figure it out in the amount of time that they took to watch it and to study it.
Exactly.
There's no way.
Exactly. And it was just dismissed offhand by so many who were attending that screening. A couple of them gave it a possibility. A couple of them were open-minded. God bless them. You know, but the majority by far just chucked it aside as if it was nothing. It's like, you're wasting our time. And again, it goes to like Meldrum's argument is like when they're so dismissive, so easily dismissive. So many of these people, even if they're kind of open-minded to it, they said, well, I don't know what's in the film, but before I do some serious research into the possibility that there is this bipedal ape roaming the North American woods, I need some bones. I need some evidence. What do you mean you need bones and you need evidence? If every single researcher out there went with that attitude, how could anything new ever be discovered?
Right. Yep.
And also, you know what I'm saying, Mike? It's
absolutely.
It's maddening. It's, well, no, we don't have proof laying in front of me, so I'm therefore not going to look deeper into it. That's totally anti-science. It's all about discovery. It's all about learning new things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So the question the reason I'm going on this mini tangent, Mike, is because the question I have is why the hell, if this was faked, why would Roger Patterson immediately allow it to be scrutinized and analyzed by scientists and anthropologists at the highest level of their field?
Yep, that says a lot there too. I mean, they were ready right as soon as they got it. They wanted it looked at and legitimized. It's you're totally right there about it. They wouldn't do it.
I'm running out of my notes here, as you can tell, but even John Napier, who is a believer, well, I shouldn't say believer, he was a supporter of the idea of Sasquatch. And forgive me, I don't know if John Napier is still alive or not. I hope he is. But even he put down this film, and his main source of argument for that is because, and granted, this was back in 1967, his main source of argument, because he says, according to him, the biological layout of this creature here, this being, it looks half human and half ape. He's like, from the waist on up, it looks human, or it looks like a chimpanzee. From the waist on down, it looks human. And that just, as far as he shows, that's so against everything we know about evolution, all about history of apes, of great apes. It just doesn't make sense. This was 1967, and as Meldrum so poignantly points out in his book, he says, well, he was premature because now, as we all know, and I'm going to read my notes here, 1974, the name Lucy, Mike.
That's right, I remember you talking about that.
Australopithecus Lucy was discovered, which, guess what? From the waist on up, it resembled a chimpanzee. From the waist down, it was more human-like. So guess what? It is possible there, Mr. John Napier. You were a bit premature in saying that it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, again, that adds frustration. That adds so much. It's so maddening when scientists, the highest in their field, the most intelligent, educated, talented people just refuse to even look at it because it doesn't fit what they know already.
Yep. It disrupts their safe little world they're in.
How are we ever supposed to know anything new? And we say this all the time, Mike. Mike has been coughing his balls off here. I'm sorry here, everybody.
Yeah, it's my throat.
Did you run out of your Coca-Cola to soothe your throat?
I did.
Now I lost my train of thought because I looked like you were dying again.
Yeah.
I hope that never happens Well, would that be a good time for you to pass away, Mike, is in the middle of a podcast?
all of a sudden the humor stops. Patrick's left with nothing.
Yeah, talk about killing time. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here. I'm like, we got 10 minutes to go. What the hell we got? Come on, Mike. Come on, Mary. Yeah. Resuscitate him.
My dead body actually does start moving and my hands start doing that stretching it out signal for that people do on TV and that we need
exactly.
More time. Keep going.
Yeah, being that we are coming short on time here. As we mentioned earlier, Roger unfortunately passed away in 1972, but he never strayed from his story. Bob and him are actually kind of went astray from each other because Bob got kind of irritated with Roger because he thought Roger was trying to exploit the film too much. And quite frankly, Bob thought he wasn't going to get any of the financial stuff if Roger was going to get any of it, which, by the way, he didn't for the most part at all.
Yeah.
Roger did go on to publish a book, a self-published book, Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist? 1966, 182-page book. I wonder if that's still in circulation. And you know what?
You should be able to find it sooner.
I know it is. I'm answering my own question because I saw that it was republished in 2018.
Cool.
So if you guys are interested, go look up Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist? Roger Patterson, 1966 book, republished 2018. Well, Mike, I've covered all my notes on both sides here. Do you have any questions for me? How do you want to wrap this one up? I got so much stuff floating around in my brain. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah. Well, when are you going to be doing another trek through the Babbitt Woods looking for the Squatch?
Well, I would love to go through the Babbitt Woods, but I think I am going to make a trip up to Babbitt the week after the Super Bowl to visit sometime co-host Mr. Show, my brother Joe, because we are going to revisit the allegedly haunted Babbitt School. So that will be a blast, and we're going to do a proper attempt at recording the source of that sound of the desks moving. That I don't know what it could be, but we're going to do it properly.
Do a sensory deprivation up there.
Ooh.
Of course, I'm not going to be making it to this Babbitt trip, but
Mike, I think we should try and do a FaceTime thing again. And
yes,
do it properly.
I definitely would be up for that.
Last time we did that from the theater, the Babbitt Theater, I was an idiot, and I held the recorder like right next to my phone, and so all we got on the playback was.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking. Off the top of my head here, though, I'm just trying to think of anything from the Meldrum book. I can't plug it enough. And again, he gets frustrated when people label him a believer, which is another thing about the Ray Wallace story that drove him nuts, and it drives me nuts too, because there was the New York Times reporter who was, after Ray Wallace passed away, called him up. He said, would you be interested in talking to me about Ray Wallace? Would you be interested in talking to me about this whole Bigfoot phenomenon? And of course, Jeff says yes, and he talks him in depth about the scientific possibilities of this being real and going on and just educating this man. And this man seemed legit. He wanted to get to the bottom of the story. He seemed open-minded. But then, of course, when the article comes out, Jeff is totally misquoted. He's even, basically puts shit down that he never said.
Yeah.
And he labeled Jeff a true believer and other scientists like Jeff as true believers. And that drives Meldrum nuts. He's like, I'm not saying I'm a true believer. I'm just looking at the facts in front of me here.
Right. Exactly.
And the scientific data tends to show us that there is something out there. Jeff also... Oh my God, I'm talking about this, but this is like the Jeff Meldrum episode of the second half of it here. I apologize.
Yeah.
But he talks about some of his own research that he's done in the field and some of his encounters he's had at night, Mike, at their, they were up in the Bluff Creek Mountain area, actually. Fairly close to this, where this film
Bluff Creek,
where this was recorded. They had some really interesting experiences, Mike, lots of audio beings running from tent to tent and at night waking them up, opening up their bags. There's so much interesting stuff that's going, very intriguing.
Yeah, and then you hear them peeing on the side of the tents.
You
did? Deep guttural giggling.
Or just a deep guttural,
Yeah. Showing Junior how to have fun with the humans.
Yeah, exactly. This is how we mess with those hairless apes who keep following us around. It's like, well, I don't know what's so special about us, but man, they keep trying to take pictures and all sorts of stuff.
Wait until you see one of them faint. It's funnier than hell.
It is. It's hilarious. And again, and Jeff goes on, he talks about just the movement of the feet, even when you see the left foot appear and it's as clear as day. And he talks about the mid-tarsal break, all the dermal ridges, the sagittal crest, all the smart scientific stuff that Mike and I aren't capable of talking about right now.
Yeah.
It's
not even capable of holding any of it in my brain.
I know. Any final thoughts, Mike? Any final thoughts on the Roger Patterson, Bob Gimlin story? What do you think?
Well,
what's your final assessment?
Like we said, we're believers. I'm a believer. Didn't take me long to really grasp onto that. Believed it as a kid. There's just too many questions about it that can't simply be answered by way of, this was a hoax or whatever.
Yeah.
There's just too much that points to not being a hoax.
I think so too.
And people are going to, make a decision and they, research it, read it, watch it, and form your own opinion. Don't just say, no, you're not going to believe it because it just can't happen.
Yeah, it's like you're not going to
look
learn.
at it.
You're not going to learn anything new ever.
Yep,
if
absolutely.
If you have a closed mind, and that goes for everybody, scientists included. You know?
Yeah, too many people have looked at it or said they were going to look at it and didn't, and it's just a waste because it's out there.
Yeah, and I think you and I are, and I'm sure all of our listeners are as well. They're capable of detecting BS when they see it or hear it. Just go watch an interview with Bob Gimlin. I mean, he comes across as so sincere and humble, and I don't get a vibe of a trickster, a hoaxer by any means at all.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned earlier, he wanted nothing to do with it for several years. That in itself kind of lends a little credence to it. I believe him. His story has never changed.
Yeah.
Ever. Unfortunately, Roger is no longer here. Hasn't been for far too long, but I hope that he is redeemed eventually,
Right, exactly.
I mean, not that he's necessarily being bashed and tarnished to this day, but he went to his grave with majority of people not believing anything that he said.
Well, if sometime in the future this is all brought out to be factual and scientifically proven, he'll be vindicated and everything, posthumously, of course, but it'll still be a great thing. It'll be a huge thing for all of us that are still here, if it happens in our lifetimes, but hopefully it'll all come out, and these pseudo skeptics, they can have just a moment of thought after that happens.
I thought you were going to
see what happens.
I thought Mike was going to say, and these pseudo skeptics suck it. I thought you were going to say that. No, Mike's too mature for that. He's too mature.
Oh, sure. Everybody knows how mature I am.
Well, Mike, with that, this has been a great episode, man.
It has.
It flew by. I feel like I barely covered what I wanted to, but that's usually how it works here.
Yeah, after getting through the trials and tribulations of the last few days, and it works.
Well, let us know what you guys think of, what all of you think of the Patterson film. And quick plug for the next episode, Mike. I think that you'll be down for this. One of our passionate listeners, who happens to be my lovely, talented, intelligent niece, she shared with me in detail via email, and she's told me these stories in person. She's kind of like Mike. She's had a life filled with the weird and the wacky. And
she's like me, but she's a lot prettier.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, Mike. I agree. I agree with you. And she's giggling right now when she hears this. She's listening sometime in the future. But yeah, Clarissa Marie, I'm calling you out on the show. I asked you already if I could talk about it, all your stories, and you said yes. And also, you accepted our invitation to come on the show and talk about them yourself. Some of these stories, Mike, that she's had, these paranormal experiences, I cannot wait to share them with you and get your thoughts on them, because they're out there, but I absolutely believe her 100%. I mean, she's not making this up.
Where have these happened? It's in that local area up there.
Well, both the house that she grew up in, which she now owns. She purchased it from her parents. My sometimes co-host, Mr. Show.
Yeah, this is all up in the Babbitt area where she's had her experiences. Yep.
And in the house that she previously lived with her and her husband and their newborn, they had started having weird experiences, moved back to her house of childhood, and they have continued. And they've been pretty weird and wacky, wild stuff. Can I give you a teaser of one real quick?
Yes, please. There's
one. She had a story where her and her sister, they used to share a room. And they would usually, and Chloe, forgive me if I'm butchering that right now, but they have memories, and Mom does too, of them having trouble sleeping, basically and they would always claim to hear from a particular area in the room or an object something of the nature of, let me backtrack, because the story is going to be more potent when I tell you in the correct manner here. The other night, or maybe it was a couple months ago, recently, Chloe's oldest, who's still a young kid, he's 2 years old, coming up on 3, usually 4, doesn't matter. Chloe, you can slap me right now because I can't remember the exact.
Anyway.
Anyways, he comes downstairs and he says he can't sleep because he's always complaining about this ghost, this wolf, this dark shadow that's in his room. And he also claims he came downstairs and he started talking about hearing noises, but he also goes up and he tells Chloe, he says, "Itsy bitsy spider, itsy bitsy spider, itsy bitsy spider." And Chloe's like, what are you talking about? Puts him back to sleep and blah, blah, blah. And that created the memory, the spark of Chloe and her sister sharing their bedroom as a kid. And they would always hear coming from a particular spot in that room when they were younger. They would be freaked out because they would keep hearing someone whispering itsy bitsy spider to them. And that is the same room that her son is now in.
Really? That's freaky. Did they add like the up the water spout kind of thing?
I don't. You'd have to ask Chloe. I'll have to give you a better detailed version.
So,
and like I said, I might have got a couple details wrong, but you definitely got the gist of that. And that's just one.
Yeah.
That's just one thing. So
that's awesome.
Can't wait to talk to you about that. But
So
I'm assuming you'll be okay with us focusing on personal paranormal experiences for the next episode.
Well, absolutely. So where her son was saying this is in the same room that her and her sister slept in.
I believe so. Yes.
Wow. See, that's really some great stuff right there. It's just, that would make you think.
I wish you could see Mike's face right now, but I can tell that he's like, whoa.
Yeah, I like that.
Gonna hit you.
Some ghosty whispering, nursery rhymes to your kid during the night.
Oofta. Throughout the generations, man. Oofta. All right, Mike. Thank you so much for making this work, man. This has been a great, great discussion. It flew by. I hope Mary doesn't swear at you anymore. She frightened me earlier. When
she starts doing that too much, I start to get a rash.
Oh, I thought you were going to say aroused.
Oh my God. No, I don't.
Okay, good. You didn't hear what I said either, so I won't.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Parts of me gets itchy, so there might be a rash there, but it's in places where I can't really see.
Okay.
So,
well, okay. I'll
just kidding.
I'll repeat myself. I was afraid that you said when she yells at you like that, you get aroused. I thought that's what you were
aroused. Oh no. Well, it depends on what she says.
Well, that's very true.
You can yell certain words, and
very, very true.
Some words are going to be very disappointing and hurtful, and some will be quite arousing. It just depends.
Well, thank you so much.
We got to go talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, I planted an idea, and Mike's not.
Ask her some questions. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Mike, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Again, if you enjoy the podcast and you want to support us, check out our Patreon page. Tons of really cool stuff, including a clip that I just posted the other day. I don't think Mike has watched it yet.
I haven't, but you emailed it to me, and I saw it there, so I will be checking it out.
Mike, I cannot wait to get your opinion. This is from a video clip that Mike sent over a year ago. He sent it to me. He was doing a brief ghost app session. It's not it's not about what you hear. It's about what you see in this video. One Patreon member, Adam Kelly, thank you so much. He already commented on what he saw, and he quote unquote said creepy. So, Mike, I want you to go watch that. You can see something. Yes. This was recorded immediately after Mike saw what he thought was a shadow person in the kitchen area of his house. He started filming. Something shows up on the reflective screen of your TV, bottom left corner.
And it's moving.
It's
moving on the TV. Okay.
It's moving. I showed Bridget, and she even was like, "Wow." I want your thoughts. So
yes, I will give you my thoughts.
Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Go find Roger Patterson's book. Go find Jeff Meldrum's book. You will not be disappointed, and you'll feel very, very smart. So,
you'll be educated and taught like we were when we were talking to Mr. Meldrum.
And since I didn't upload my my Inspector Kemp sound clip, I will say it. Everybody, until we meet again.
Peace out.